The capture. Commander Varzik stood on the command deck of the relentless hunter, his massive frame casting a long shadow across the glowing control panels. His crimson exoskeleton gleamed under the ship's ambient lighting, the intricate patterns of battle scars telling the story of countless successful hunts across the galaxy. 8 eyes, arranged in a precise geometric pattern across his angular face, focused intently on the holographic display of the blue-green planet rotating slowly before him. Earth, he rumbled, mandibles clicking with anticipation. Home to the species designated as humans. Primitive, fragile, yet curiously widespread across their planet. First Officer Krell approached, her more slender frame adorned with fewer battle markings, a sign of her youth among the craft hunting elite. The Council has approved this world for the coming-of-age hunt, Commander. They believe these humans will provide an adequate, if disappointingly simple, challenge for our young hunters. Varzik's upper limbs twitched in what passed for amusement among his species. Their biochemical analysis indicates minimal threat potential. No natural armor, dull senses, laughable strength compared to even our juveniles. Their only notable feature appears to be a slightly larger brain-to-body ratio. But what good is thinking when you're being pursued by the galaxy's apex predators? The bridge crew erupted in rasping laughter, mandibles clicking and appendages twitching with mirth. "Prepare the acquisition team," Varzik ordered, his voice dropping to a more serious tone. "Select a specimen from a remote location, preferably one with some slight physical advantages over their norm. I want at least a token challenge for our youngling's first off-world hunt." "As you command," Krell acknowledged, moving towards the tactical station. "We've already identified several potential targets in isolated regions of their northern hemisphere." Varzik turned back to the view screen, all 8 eyes narrowing. "Let's make this hunt memorable." Dr. Maya Chen carefully adjusted her specimen collection kit as the Arctic wind howled around her small research tent. 3 weeks into her solo expedition, studying the effects of climate change on high-latitude ecosystems, and she'd already gathered more data than her entire previous team had collected in months. At 34, Maya had established herself as one of Earth's foremost xenobiologists, though her true background remained classified to all but a few high-ranking military officials. Before her academic career, she'd spent 8 years in a special operations unit so secretive that most governments denied its existence. Her training had been comprehensive: survival in extreme environments, combat tactics against numerically superior forces, and psychological warfare, skills she'd hoped to never use again. Maya checked her satellite phone. Still no signal, but that was expected in this remote corner of northern Canada. She'd have to wait another 2 days before her scheduled check-in with the research base. Sighing, she secured her samples and prepared for another night of howling winds and spectacular aurora displays. As she zipped up her thermal sleeping bag, Maya noticed an unusual silence falling over the landscape. The persistent Arctic wind had suddenly died away, leaving an eerie stillness that raised the hairs on the back of her neck. Years of training kicked in, and she reached instinctively for the combat knife she still kept strapped to her ankle, a habit her academic colleagues would have found amusing. A brilliant purple light flashed outside her tent, casting bizarre shadows against the fabric walls. Not the aurora. Too intense, too focused. Maya had barely grasped the knife handle when the tent material disintegrated around her, and she felt her body become weightless, rising into the air surrounded by pulsing energy. Her last conscious thought as darkness claimed her: "This isn't how climate research is supposed to go." Maya regained consciousness slowly, keeping her eyes closed and breathing regular. Another old habit from her previous life. The air smelled wrong, metallic with undercurrents of something sulfuric and alien. The surface beneath her was smooth and unyielding, vibrating slightly with what she guessed was some form of propulsion system. She carefully catalogued her physical state without moving. No apparent injuries, though a dull headache pulsed behind her eyes. Her thermal gear had been removed, leaving her in the base layer of synthetic fabric. The knife was gone, unsurprisingly. The temperature was uncomfortably warm, perhaps 85 degrees Fahrenheit, and the gravity felt slightly lighter than Earth normal. Voices reached her ears, clicking, rasping sounds punctuated by what might be language, though nothing resembling any human tongue. Maya risked opening one eye a fraction, peering through her lashes. What she saw confirmed her suspicions. She was lying in a transparent enclosure, beyond which moved creatures straight out of Earth's most imaginative science fiction. Bipedal but hunched, they stood nearly 8 feet tall, with exoskeletons in shades of crimson and amber. Multiple limbs moved with unsettling precision as they manipulated control panels covered in symbols she couldn't begin to decipher. "The specimen is conscious," announced a voice, now somehow translated into comprehensible English. "Its vital signs indicate awareness despite its attempt at deception." So much for playing possum, Maya thought, opening her eyes fully and sitting up with deliberate slowness. A massive creature approached her enclosure, its exoskeleton decorated with elaborate patterns that the others lacked. A leader, then. "Human," it addressed her directly, mandibles clicking between words. "I am Commander Varzik of the Krath hunting fleet. You have been selected for the honor of participating in our sacred coming-of-age hunt." Maya met the creature's multiple eyes without flinching. "I don't recall submitting an application for this honor." Her response seemed to surprise the alien commander, its mandibles freezing mid-click. "It speaks with unusual coherence," noted another Krath, this one smaller and with fewer decorative markings. Previous specimens responded with panic or incomprehensible vocalizations. Varzik leaned closer to the transparent barrier. "You understand your situation, human." "I understand I've been abducted by an alien species that apparently considers humans suitable hunting targets," Maya replied evenly. "What I don't understand is why you'd choose such disappointing prey as myself." The commander's posture shifted slightly. Surprise again. "You comprehend our language even when we speak among ourselves." "Interesting. Your translation technology works both ways, it seems," Maya observed. "Efficient design." The smaller Krath approached. "Commander, this specimen displays unusual cognitive function. Perhaps we should select a different target, more representative of their species norm." Varzik made a dismissive gesture with one upper limb. "No, First Officer Krell. The unexpected analytical capacity may provide a marginally more entertaining hunt. The younglings should learn that even prey can occasionally surprise." He turned back to Maya. "Human, you will be transported to our designated hunting preserve. As dictated by the ancient code, you will be given one planetary rotation, approximately 28 of your Earth hours, before the hunt begins." Maya nodded slowly, already calculating odds and possibilities. "And what are the rules of this hunt?" The question seemed to amuse the commander. "Rules. You are prey. Your only goal is survival. If you somehow manage to elude capture for 5 planetary rotations, our code demands your release. And has any prey ever survived that long?" The bridge erupted in that rasping, clicking laughter again. "The longest any species has survived was just over 2 rotations," Krell informed her, mandibles twitching with obvious amusement. "A particularly clever specimen from the Arcturian system, but they possessed natural camouflage abilities your species lacks." "I see," Maya said quietly. "And what tools am I permitted?" Varzik seemed to consider this. "The code allows basic survival implements. You may have one weapon from your planet. Primitive, of course. And whatever you can fashion from the environment of the preserve." "My knife, then," Maya requested. "The one your team took from my gear." "Granted," Varzik rasped, "though it will avail you little against Krath hunters." Maya allowed herself a small smile. "We'll see." Something in her expression caused Varzik to tilt his head, studying her with greater intensity. "You display unusual confidence for prey, human. Perhaps your previous samples weren't representative of our species," Maya replied. As she was escorted from the bridge by 2 guards, Maya heard Varzik murmur to his first officer, "Unusual specimen indeed. Perhaps this hunt will be more sporting than anticipated." You have no idea, Maya thought. The transport vessel descended through swirling clouds toward a landscape that resembled a nightmarish version of Earth's Badlands. Jagged rock formations punctuated vast stretches of rusty soil, while twisted vegetation in shades of purple and blue clung tenaciously to sheltered crevices. Twin suns hung low in an amber sky, casting long, distorted shadows across the terrain. Two junior craft guards guided Maya down the vessel's ramp, their postures conveying a mixture of excitement and contempt. A larger craft waited at the bottom, not Varzik, but one with elaborate markings suggesting high rank. "I am Hunt Master Grox," the alien announced without preamble. "I oversee the coming-of-age hunt and ensure adherence to the ancient code." He gestured toward Maya with one clawed appendage. "As prey, you are entitled to know the parameters of the preserve, 100 square units of terrain, approximately 70 of your Earth miles in each direction. The boundaries are marked by red light pillars. Crossing them triggers automatic termination." Maya nodded, absorbing the information while scanning the landscape for water sources, defensive positions, and potential natural resources. "Your time begins now." Grox tossed her knife onto the ground at her feet. "One rotation before the young hunters are released. Use it wisely." His mandibles clicked in what she recognized as amusement, though wisdom rarely prolongs the inevitable. As Maya retrieved her knife, she asked one final question. "How many hunters will be pursuing me?" 8 younglings on their first off-world hunt," Grox replied. "Consider yourself fortunate. Fully mature craft hunters would end this game in minutes." Maya nodded again, sliding the knife into her boot. "Thank you for the information, Hunt Master." As she turned to walk away, Grox called after her, "Human, your calm is admirable but misplaced. No prey survives the craft hunt." Maya looked back over her shoulder, her expression neutral. "There's a first time for everything." She strode purposefully toward a distant ridge line, already formulating her strategy. The craft had made 3 critical mistakes. They'd taken a human trained in asymmetric warfare. They'd given her time to prepare, and most importantly, they told her exactly how many enemies she would face. From the transport ship, Commander Varzik watched the human's retreating figure with growing curiosity. Something about her deliberate pace and calculated movements triggered a warning sense he hadn't felt in many hunting cycles. "An interesting specimen," he remarked to Hunt Master Grox as the latter reboarded the vessel. "Perhaps marginally more intelligent than the norm," Grox conceded, "but ultimately just another trophy for our younglings." Varzik's 8 eyes narrowed slightly. "Ensure the younglings maintain proper hunt protocol. I sense this one may require it." As the transport lifted off, Maya Chen was already collecting materials for her first trap, a cold smile playing across her lips. The hunters would be coming soon, but this time they'd find something they hadn't expected. Prey that fought back. The hunter becomes the hunted. The 8 young craft hunters gathered at the ceremonial launching platform, their newly forged hunting armor gleaming in the light of the twin suns. Each stood nearly 7 feet tall, their exoskeletons still pale compared to the deep crimson of mature adults, but the ceremonial markings freshly carved into their carapaces signified their transition to adulthood. Hunt Master Grox paced before them, his battle-scarred exoskeleton, a testament to countless successful hunts. "Young hunters," he rasped, voice carrying across the assembly area. "Today you embark on your first troop hunt. The skills you have honed in simulation will now be tested against living prey." Commander Varzik stood to one side, observing the proceedings with all 8 eyes focused intently on the young hunters. The coming-of-age hunt was a sacred tradition among the craft, one that had remained unchanged for thousands of cycles. Yet something about this particular hunt left him vaguely unsettled. "The human has been granted its head start, as demanded by the ancient code," Grox continued. "Though this species is considered minimal challenge, remember the first principle of the hunt. Never underestimate prey, no matter how weak they appear," the young hunters recited in unison, mandibles clicking in perfect rhythm. "Precisely," Grox affirmed. Work in pairs as you have been trained. The first team to deliver a kill will earn primary trophy rights. Young Hunter Drek stepped forward, the most promising of this season's clutch. Huntmaster, what capabilities does this human possess that we should be wary of? An appropriate question, Varzik thought approvingly. Minimal natural defenses, Grox replied dismissively. No claws, no armor, dull senses. Their only notable attribute is higher cognitive function, though this rarely translates to effective evasion tactics against superior hunters. Krell approached the assembly, distributing small devices to each young hunter. These trackers have been programmed with the human's biochemical signature. They will lead you directly to your prey. The younglings activated their devices, holographic directional indicators immediately pointing toward the western ridge. Several clicked their mandibles in amusement at how predictable the human's path had been. May your claws strike true, Varzik intoned the traditional blessing. As the young hunters departed in their assigned pairs, Varzik turned to Grox. Have the observation drones been deployed? Of course, Commander. We will monitor every moment of the hunt from the command center. The council members are particularly interested in this cohort's performance. Varzik nodded, but couldn't shake his growing unease. Ensure the emergency retrieval team is on standby protocol. Grox's mandibles clicked in surprise. For a human hunt. That's highly unusual, Commander. Consider it a training exercise, Varzik replied, turning toward the command center. Nothing more. Maya Chen crouched behind a twisted blue-leafed shrub, carefully applying a mixture of purple plant sap and reddish soil to her exposed skin. 23 hours into her head start, and she'd accomplished more than even she had thought possible. The alien landscape had initially seemed hostile to human survival, but Maya's xenobiological training had proven invaluable. She quickly identified which plants were likely to be toxic to the exoskeleton-based craft physiology, which rocks could produce the sharpest cutting edges, and which terrain features would give her tactical advantages. Her first discovery had been a stroke of luck. While collecting samples of the purple vegetation for potential weapons, she'd noticed how the sap caused a peculiar reaction on her skin. Temporary numbness followed by a faint masking of her body heat. A natural thermal dampener, perfect for confusing any infrared tracking technology the hunters might employ. The second discovery had been the small river cutting through the eastern sector of the hunting preserve. Its water contained high levels of a sulfur-like compound, noxious to human senses, but potentially far worse to the Krath, whose respiratory systems she had carefully observed during her captivity. Maya checked her improvised timepiece, a series of marks in the soil aligned with the movement of the twin suns. The hunt would begin soon. She finished applying her camouflage mixture and surveyed her preparations one final time. 6 traps set at strategic points along likely approach vectors. 3 false trails leading to prepared ambush positions. 1 central fallback point stocked with improvised weapons, and the components for several more explosive and chemical deterrents. Not ideal, but workable given the constraints. Maya smiled grimly as she slid her knife into its makeshift sheath. The Krath had expected to hunt a scientist. Instead, they'd captured a predator with a very particular set of skills. One who had spent years training to fight against numerically superior forces. Let the games begin, she whispered to herself, moving silently toward her first ambush position. Young Hunter Drek moved confidently through the twisted vegetation, his hunting partner Cal following closely behind. Their tracking devices showed the human's position less than 2 distance units ahead, an easy first kill that would distinguish them among their clutch mates. The prey moved directly toward the western ridge, Drek noted, mandibles clicking with amusement. Exactly as predicted in simulation training. These humans truly are primitive. Calv chittered in agreement. The others are approaching from the south and east. We'll claim first blood if we hurry. They increased their pace, 8-limbed forms moving with surprising grace despite their size. The rocky terrain presented no challenge to their specialized appendages, evolved over millennia for pursuit across any landscape. Strange. Drek paused suddenly, compound eyes narrowing as he studied his tracking device. The signal shows the human directly ahead, but I detect no movement. Calv extended his sensory appendages, testing the air. No recent scent markers either. Perhaps it is attempting to hide. A faint, nearly imperceptible sound, like a small stone shifting, reached their auditory receptors from beyond a nearby rock formation. Both young hunters dropped into combat stances, extending their ceremonial hunting blades. "Surround and flush," Drek commanded, the standard tactic for cornered prey. They split up, Calv circling left while Drek moved right, each keeping low to present minimal targets. As Drek rounded the formation, his tracking device pulsed more intensely, indicating immediate proximity to the human. But instead of finding cowering prey, he discovered only a small patch of fabric, torn from the human's clothing and smeared with its bodily fluids. Deception. He clicked urgently to Calv. The prey has. The warning came too late. A cascade of loose rocks crashed down from above, burying Calv beneath their weight. Before Drek could react, a cloud of purplish powder erupted in his face, crushed flora of some kind, carrying particles that immediately caused his respiratory spiracles to constrict painfully. As he staggered backward, fighting for breath, a small figure dropped from an overhead ledge. The human female, much smaller than he had expected, landed with practiced precision and drove a sharpened stone blade directly into the junction between his head carapace and thorax. Drek felt cold shock as his neural function began to fail. His last conscious thought was pure disbelief. How could prey know our anatomical vulnerability so precisely? Maya quickly dragged both fallen hunters into a narrow crevice, concealing the bodies beneath loose rocks. She retrieved her improvised stone knife, now cracked from impact with the alien exoskeleton, and collected the hunters' ceremonial blades and tracking devices. The weapons would be useful. The trackers could be repurposed. She worked methodically, allowing no emotions to interfere with necessary actions. 8 hunters minus 2 left 6 remaining threats. Better odds, but still dangerous. Moving quickly, she reset the trap with the human scent lure in a new location, then retreated along a carefully prepared route that would leave no tracks. She needed to be 2 steps ahead always. In the command center, silence had fallen like a physical weight. What had begun as an entertaining display of young hunters pursuing helpless prey had transformed into something unprecedented. Impossible. Hunt Master Grox finally rasped, mandibles hanging slack with shock. The human deliberately lured them into position. It knew precisely where to strike. Commander Varzik studied the holographic display showing the scene of the ambush. All 8 eyes narrowed in intense concentration. "Replay the encounter," he ordered. "Focus on the human's movements." As the scene replayed, Varzik's unease crystallized into grim understanding. "Those aren't the movements of prey," he stated flatly. "Those are the movements of a trained hunter." Krell approached, her posture conveying alarm. "Commander, the remaining hunting pairs report their tracking devices show contradictory signals. The human appears to be in 3 locations simultaneously. It's using the trackers from the fallen younglings to create false trails," Varzik realized. "Alert the remaining hunters immediately. Elevate threat assessment to Category 3. Category 3. Grox's mandibles clicked rapidly in disbelief. "That classification is reserved for predator species with technological capacity." Evidently, Varzik replied coldly, "Our assessment of humans was flawed. Deploy the observation drones to locate the human visually, and prepare my personal hunting gear." Krell's posture shifted to one of surprise. "You're joining the hunt, Commander." "I'm salvaging it," Varzik corrected grimly, "before we lose the entire clutch of younglings." The twin suns had completed half their arc across the amber sky when the next pair of young hunters fell to Maya's tactics. This time, she'd used the stolen tracking devices to create a false trail leading directly into a narrow canyon, where she prepared a deadfall trap of massive boulders, triggered by a simple tripwire system. One hunter had been crushed instantly. The other, injured but alive, had fallen to Maya's knife, now supplemented by the ceremonial blade of the first craft she'd eliminated. 4 down, 4 to go. Maya was under no illusions about her situation. Despite her successes, she was operating in hostile territory against enemies with superior physical capabilities and technology. Each engagement drained her limited resources and energy reserves. She needed to end this quickly. As she moved toward her next ambush position, a faint humming sound caught her attention. Mechanical, not biological. Looking up, she spotted a small drone hovering at high altitude, its optical sensors clearly scanning the terrain. "They're changing the rules," she thought grimly. Time to adapt. Maya quickly gathered materials for her next countermeasure. The purple plant sap that masked thermal signatures would be useful against optical surveillance as well. As she worked, a new sound reached her ears. The rhythmic, clicking communication of approaching craft, but with a different cadence than the younger hunters. Deeper, more measured, experienced. The stakes had just been raised. The remaining younglings have been ordered to fall back to defensive positions, Krell reported as she matched Varzik's rapid stride. 2 teams have acknowledged. The third team is not responding. Varzik's mandibles clicked in frustration. 6 younglings lost in less than half a rotation. Unprecedented. They moved swiftly across the rocky terrain, Varzik's battle-hardened exoskeleton gleaming with protective sealants and enhanced sensor arrays. Unlike the ceremonial hunting gear of the younglings, his armor was designed for true combat against worthy adversaries. "The Council is demanding explanations," Grox added, struggling to keep pace. "How could a Class 3 species inflict such losses?" "This human is not representative of their species norm," Varzik replied. "It possesses combat training comparable to our own hunter-gatherers. The question is not how this happened, but why our intelligence failed to identify such individuals before approving Earth as a hunting ground." A signal from Varzik's advanced tracking system interrupted further discussion. "I have the human's position," he announced. 2 distance units northeast, moving toward the Sulphur River. The younglings reported multiple contradictory signals. Krell reminded him. "My systems are not so easily deceived," Varzik responded. "This signal is authentic, biochemical markers beyond what simple scent lures can replicate." They altered course, moving with the practiced stealth that had made the craft the galaxy's most feared predators. As they approached the riverbank, Varzik signaled for silent deployment, each taking position to surround their prey. The human female stood at the river's edge, apparently collecting water in a makeshift container fashioned from plant material. Her back was turned, a perfect opportunity for a clean strike. Varzik raised one limb, preparing to signal the attack, when his instincts suddenly screamed warning. The human's posture was wrong, too exposed, too vulnerable. No hunter would leave themselves so unprotected. "Hold," he rasped urgently, but Grox had already launched forward, ceremonial blade extended for a killing blow. The human collapsed into a heap of vegetation and dirt as Grox struck it. A decoy. Simultaneously, a shower of noxious river water cascaded down from an overhead outcropping, drenching the huntmaster in sulfuric compounds that immediately began sizzling against his exoskeleton. As Grox writhed in pain, the real Maya emerged from concealment behind a boulder, hurling a crude spear fashioned from a ceremonial blade lashed to a straight branch. The weapon struck Krell's thorax with devastating accuracy, penetrating between armor plates. Varzik reacted with the speed of a veteran hunter, evading a second spear and closing distance with the human in 3 rapid bounds. But instead of fleeing, Maya charged directly toward him, a move so unexpected it momentarily disrupted his attack sequence. She slid beneath his slashing claws, driving her remaining blade upward toward the same vulnerability she'd exploited in the younger hunters. Varzik twisted away, the blade scraping harmlessly against his reinforced armor. "Impressive technique," he clicked, circling warily. "You've studied our physiology well." "Quick study," Maya replied tersely, never taking her eyes from his movements. Your younglings provided excellent anatomy lessons. For the first time in many hunting cycles, Varzik felt genuine respect for prey. You're no ordinary human. And you're not ordinary hunters, she countered. Abducting sentient beings for sport violates every principle of civilized society. Varzik's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. Yet you've proven more than capable of defending yourself. Perhaps our assessment of your species requires revision. Maya maintained her defensive stance, knife ready. Here's a revision for you. Humans are not prey. We're survivors, adapters. Push us, and we push back harder. A groaning Grox attempted to rise, his exoskeleton still smoking from the chemical attack. Commander, finish this aberration. It has violated the ancient code by striking down Hunt Master rank. Varzik made a dismissive gesture. The code applies to prey. This human has demonstrated it is not prey. It is a hunter, like ourselves. He lowered his weapons slightly. A worthy opponent deserves honorable treatment. Maya didn't relax her guard. Here's my proposal. I've survived nearly 2 full rotations already, with half your hunting party eliminated. Declare me the victor according to your own rules. Return me to Earth, and reconsider your classification of humans. You ask much, Varzik replied, but his posture had shifted from aggressive to contemplative. I offer much in return, Maya said firmly. Knowledge, my silence about your hunting practices, and a warning. If you continue hunting humans, eventually you'll take the wrong one. Someone who won't stop at defense but will follow you home. Is that a risk worth taking for mere sport? Varzik considered her words, all 8 eyes studying her with new understanding. Finally, he straightened to full height and made a complex gesture with his upper limbs. Human hunter Maya Chen, he announced formally. The Krath hunting fleet acknowledges your survival skills and combat prowess. By the authority vested in me as fleet commander, I declare this hunt complete with special dispensation. Grox began to protest, but Varzik silenced him with a sharp click. Furthermore, I shall recommend to the Hunting Council that Earth be reclassified as a protected world, its inhabitants recognized as an emerging hunter species rather than prey. Maya slowly lowered her weapon. A wise decision, Commander. Wisdom, Varzik responded, mandibles clicking in what might have been the Krath equivalent of a smile, often comes from unexpected teachers. 3 days later, Maya Chen stood in the same remote Arctic location where she'd been abducted, watching as the Krath transport vessel disappeared into the cloudy sky. Her original research equipment had been returned, along with something extra, a small metallic emblem bearing unfamiliar symbols. A hunter's mark, Varzik had explained. Should you encounter our kind again, this signifies protected status. Maya tucked the emblem into her pocket and began setting up her tent. Her satellite phone showed dozens of missed calls. Her research base probably thought she'd perished in a blizzard. She'd need a plausible explanation for her absence that wouldn't involve interstellar abduction and alien hunting parties. As she secured the tent against the returning Arctic wind, Maya smiled grimly. Somewhere across the galaxy, a hunting society was reevaluating its understanding of humans. They'd come looking for easy prey and found something else entirely. A species that refused to be hunted. A species that fought back.